Okay, Tyler Perry fans, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. I will leave a link in the comment section below so you can check it out for yourself. But this interview has created a bit of backlash and controversy. But then again, on Twitter, you know, it's like the Wild Wild West. So I made sure to read this article thoroughly and give my honest opinion, because I somewhat see both sides of this. So I'm going to talk about it. First of all, the title itself, Tyler Perry talks about the need for time and training to create lasting diversity in Hollywood. The director will premiere his latest feature, A Jazzman's Blues, on yesterday, which was the 11th, at the Toronto International Film Festival. Okay. Now, in the actual sit-down interview, if I could find, hopefully I could find a video for this somewhere if they post it online, because I definitely want to listen and see if there was, like, you know, a notable crowd reaction. But he sat down for a wide-ranging conversation about the long road to making the period drama and his hope for diversity in the entertainment industry. Okay. There are 2 paragraphs, and I want to read through them first and then kind of give my thoughts. Okay. I am extremely excited for what has happened. The diversity, the choices, the opportunities, said Perry in his conversation with the Hollywood Reporter. But I worry because there is such a push for diversity and push for hiring people of color that I have found in situations that there are people who can be pushed into seats they are not ready for. He then emphasized the need for training and mentorship in order to create sustainable diversity in Hollywood. I don't want to have us as black people in seats that we aren't ready for, and then have people who are not black that were moved out of those seats that say, look what an awful job they're doing. It's my hope that in all of this push for diversity, that we are also providing the time and the training to make sure that we can do a good job. I can see how on one side there are black people like, yo, Tyler, yo, we made you what you are, and now here you are being a gatekeeper. You're just like the other gatekeepers of Hollywood. But then on the flip side, I could see Tyler's perspective of, you know, and this is just my interpretation of what he said. It goes back to, I remember this one comedian, Alfonso something, because I remember back in the day on Pandora and Spotify, I heard his CD. I think it was like the first black president. He talked about Obama, but then he talked about like Jackie Robinson, you know, the first black player in the major league, you know, baseball. You know, when you're the first black anything, the expectation is like, yo, that was a bunt. You didn't get a home run, with you lazy Negro, that kind of thing. So when black people are in positions, there's a lot more scrutiny. Like, you know, a white person or a white woman, or, you know, somebody of a ethnicity that isn't treated as badly as black people. When a black person takes on a certain role, there are things they can't get away with. I think one of the funniest things I heard was back when former President Donald Trump, the whole thing about him having, what was it, like McDonald's for a football team that was, a young football team that came to the White House, and he was just standing there with fast food. And it's like, if Obama did anything like that, he would be scrutinized, but then Trump did it. And it's like, man, why are people complaining? You know, it's like, they better be glad they got that. So my thing is, and it's funny because earlier today I did like a 20-minute video talking about The Little Mermaid with Halle Bailey, and how I felt when that casting was first announced. Like, this was like mid 2019, you know, like from 2019 to kind of 2021. There was kind of a period of time where it felt like black people weren't being heard. You know, the whole thing about police brutality, and at the very core, just being treated like human beings. Like, yo, if I'm up for a job and I'm just as qualified as this white person or this Asian person or this, you know, other ethnicity, don't let me being black be the deciding factor. You know, look at the qualifications. There are times where, you know, I'm more qualified than this person, but they got the job, and because I'm black, I didn't get it. It's one of those things where we want it to be treated like people, not animals, not, you know, being shot down like, you know, deer whenever we get pulled over by the police. But instead, it felt like the world was doing everything but giving us what we wanted, which was just a fair shot, being treated like people. Hey, we're going to give you a black Ariel and the Little Mermaid. Hey, we're going to remove Aunt Jemima. Oh, we're going to replace the Cleveland Brown voice actor on Family Guy who's white and has been voicing the character for 20 years and replace him with a black person. And then the list went on. So it felt like a lot of the diversity that was going on, like at Disney or, you know, in different corporations, like, oh yeah, we're putting up, we're posting a pitch black photo on blackout day, or we're going to show a black power fist to show we're down with the Black Lives Matter movement. It just felt like black people were getting plucked and placed in different positions just for the sake of, hey, we're down with the cause. But then when the job is time to work, you're not qualified. So then it's like, see, this is what happens. This is why we didn't put a black person in the position, because you're doing a crappy job. So again, I can kind of see both sides of this. I think diversity goes further than just black people, whether it be, you know, like LGBT characters and, you know, different roles, or, you know, one of the biggest things, especially in like superhero genre, is where characters are, you know, palette swap, where a predominantly known white character is made black, or a predominantly white female character is made Hispanic, or you know, oh, this we're going to have like a gay superhero be like the star of this movie, like to be the first gay. It's kind of like, you know, forced diversity, where you're just checking boxes as opposed to creating quality content. That's pretty much the basis of what I wanted to talk about with that subject. Now, yeah, there's the argument of, well, Tyler, were you qualified when you started making plays, when you were doing, you know, your early work to get your first big shot to make it into the big time? I think it's one of those things where sometimes you have to take a chance, not just on yourself, but on people. But I agree that training and mentorship is important, but then you have the other side where the people are like, yo, I mean, with the stuff you've been churning out, like you know, an assembly line in a factory, and they've gotten low reviews, you want to talk about somebody about training and mentorship. So here's the thing. I'm just a normal guy, and I'm just talking from my own honest opinion, because I really have nothing to lose. I'm not in a Tyler Perry affiliation contract where I get paid by Tyler Perry. I'm just a regular person living at his parents' house until he saves up enough money to buy his own home. So don't think that I'm sitting up here trying to vouch for Tyler, or I'm trying to bash Tyler, trying to get brownie points with him, or, oh, he's in jeopardy of losing everything. I'm just a fan that talks about these shows. So just keep that in mind before you comment, oh, you're just a Tyler Perry hater, or you're a Tyler Perry, you know, defender. No, I'm just a regular person giving my honest thoughts. But I do have some interesting insight, because when I've talked with different cast members from various projects, I like what he said about training and mentorship, because think of it this way. When you look at Tyler Perry projects and how fastly they're filmed, and I've talked with people, it's like, yo, you know, when I'm on the set of like a movie or a show and they do like 10 takes, I'm like, oh wow, because I'm, you know, on Tyler Perry set, we do it like once, maybe twice, rarely, but it's like one and done, and then we move on to the next thing. And I've had people from behind the scenes like, hey, you know, I worked on this project, and you know, this character from the Haves and the Have-Nots, or this character from Meet the Browns, or this character from The Oval, they were on set. And it's like, you know, they kind of stood at attention like soldiers, because it was that Tyler Perry training. And sometimes, you know, they were giving great advice to those who were on the set of the, like, oh, this made for TV movie and whatnot, because it's like, you know, hey, at Tyler Perry Studios, this is how we do it. It's like, you know, and it wasn't like, you know, they were running over people. It's like there would be people who didn't know what to do, and they would come in and boom, they would give solid advice, kind of like, generals, on the field, giving soldiers, combat training and information. And all I got to say is this. It kind of reminds me of the backlash when Kim Kardashian and her family, what was it, that interview they did with Vogue or something, and she talked about how the problem is with people today. I think it was like a comment about women, but yeah, I think it was like a geared towards women, but I think it could be used towards people in general. It's the problem, you don't want to get up and work. And her giving that message met a lot of backlash, but when you look at when you listen to what she was saying and break it down, it made sense, because yeah, to the average person, it's like, how dare you? You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You had opportunities a lot of normal everyday people don't have. Your 24 hours don't look like my 24 hours. You have kids, but you have nannies and, this and that. But then on the flip side, she wakes up early, does her social media thing, has meetings, and everything is done strategically. So yeah, an 8 hour, like when I do my YouTube stuff, my hours of work on YouTube and eBay, like if I spent 8 hours doing that, it doesn't look the same as my parents, like when my dad drives the truck at the power plant hauling coal and ash, or when my mom goes to the flag company doing her thing, or when my sister, manager at Wendy's. Like our 8 hours can be different, and the financial, results are different as well. But it's one of those things where when a person says something you don't like, look at where that person is in their financial, situation, because what Tyler says, if it was said by somebody who was a non-billionaire, how would you feel about it? It's kind of the same thing when Kim said what she said. I don't know. I'm just a person where I look at things where, there are situations where people have friends, they have a circle, and they work with that certain group of people. And yeah, there are some weak links sometimes where it's like, man, I can't believe that person got a job. I'm a better actor than them, or I'm a better, manager than them, but they got the job. It's like, it's not, what's the saying? It's not about what you know, it's who you know. And then also on top of that, nepotism. Then of course, getting a job as a favor, like, oh yeah, you helped me out back in the day, so I'm going to give you this job. I don't know. I mean, given that he's a billionaire and he owns his own studio, I think he's pretty, on point when he says training and management, because, Tyler Perry Studios works like a well-oiled machine. They go in there and people go in there and it's like a training camp, because I think he said in one of his interviews before that the thing is, when he hires, black people to work on the crew, to work behind the cameras, working it and all, it's to kind of prepare them for when they eventually go out into Hollywood, so they can get a better pay rate, so they can, know what they're doing. And based on the people I've talked with, they have said, by the time I left a Tyler Perry studio, I felt like I could work on any studio lot in the world. And more often than not, that's how it turns out. Like, hey, the training I got there was essential. So yeah, again, I can see both sides of this, so that's pretty much my 2 cents. Moving on, it talks about a breakdown of the movie. We already know this. Then he also talks about the whole thing about actors who turned him down for the roles for the film because of the poor critical reception his films have garnered in the past. He goes on to say, this is a generation that has come up to with the Madea films and enjoyed them, but they got a little older and they think this is so lowbrow. I don't know if I fall into that category, because I never in my life figured that I would be reviewing Tyler Perry content for a living, going on 5 years now. So it's like when you watch a Disney film or, a cartoon from Cartoon Network, you pick up on stuff like adult humor and stuff, or you're like, wow, I can't believe I like this. This show was trash. I mean, if you ask me, I still stand by the early Tyler Perry era being the best era of content in terms of quality. But then when it got to the point where it felt like he was just churning out anything, that's when the quality felt lowbrow. So you could say this is so lowbrow about a lot of his current stuff, but his early work, I really loved it. All right, let's see here. Okay. In the frustration, I thought, wait a minute, they have never seen you do anything like this. I don't know if they think Medea is going to pop out from behind a tree in reference to A Jazzman's Blues. And when asked if he ever considered giving up the reins for this film, Perry said, "Never, not Jazzman, not this movie, because of the way I held it like a child." And it makes sense. This was his first script, almost 30 years in the making. So yeah, I'll be pretty defensive of that and make sure that I held the reins. So yeah, you want to make sure that your pet project or your baby, you know, came from the script to the big screen the way you wanted it to go. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got to say. You let me know what you think about what Tyler said about black people needing the adequate amount of time and training to get into certain seats as opposed to just being plucked up and put there for the sake of diversity. So I've given my thoughts. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will talk to you in the next one.